I suspect this is going to be us. So I'm going to kick off the meeting. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the September 28th the Contributor Strategy Working Group, Contributor Working Group meeting. This meeting is run under the CNCF Code of Conduct, and we expect each other to be excellent towards each other and treat each other as you would like to be treated. And with that, I dropped the link to the agenda in the chat. Please add yourself to the agenda as an attendee. Hello, Jay.
Hello, everybody.
All right. Looking at the agenda, let me share a screen. That would be polite. That screen there. Share. All right, you should be seeing the agenda now. Okay, first point on the agenda is the from last week, the advisory document on non-code roles. There was a doodle sent out by Noah, but not much joy there yet, so he can't make today's meeting. So I put this on the agenda from out of last week's points. So I thought that, and he apologized that he can't be here. So do share the doodle and the comments in your social media or wherever in your circles. But I don't think there's much more to be discussed unless anybody else has something on that topic. I take silence as a no. Okay, roadmap blog from last week has been published, has been social media blasted. So got a lot of feedback on that, so that's good. Just for information. Then what I've done is I started thinking a little, what are we actually doing here with this working group? Sorry, I tried to move something else out of the way. There we are. And then I looked at the two original tracking issues, and I thought it might be a good thing for us to go back to these tracking issues, because this is when this working group was born, and rethink the topics on here and maybe make a priority out of these specific topics that's still open on that. And things that are stale, maybe close them. And from there, have an active to-do list of what we should be doing. I was not here in 2020 when this was started, so Josh or Dawn, I think the two of you might have been around. Any thoughts?
Hold on, I'm muted. I'd have to review that. A lot of those things actually have been written.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Right. Although I don't think we ever did a reviewing.md template, which was actually on there for good reason.
Yeah.
Mainly, because that was always firmly in this working group, and when this working group kind of dissolved for a while, it got lost. I mean, my tendency would be to actually mine this particular issue for
so wait,
things that we still think are a good idea, and then break them out.
Josh, we actually did do the reviewing.md. It's in the repo.
We did?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And it has a how-to as well.
Okay.
I think we need to scrub this and figure out which bits we've done and if there's anything left to do.
CRM, I've seen some content around that, so there could be others.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, that got written.
Yeah.
Hold on just a sec.
I'm trying to think what would be the practical way. Are we going to just tick them off here, the ones that are done? Do we want to link them? Let me move it on the project board too. work in
Yeah.
progress.
I mean, this is the sort of issue that we don't do anymore now that we have a project board. So, so mostly what we want to do is just look over this to see if there are things that should have an issue associated with them because we never did them.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah,
like for
I think the more
example,
manageable way, you're right, is to
Yeah.
break these out as actual issues.
yeah. Yep. And there's a few of those. There were some things added on the end that I don't know. I have to guess at what was meant. Like I think release process was, hey, we should have an example of what a release process document would look like. The and the but like I think Carolyn just added that. And if it was discussed, it was at a meeting that wasn't in. So the yes, there's a bunch of sort of so like everything from issue templates down, I'm not exactly certain. I don't think any of that got done, and I'm not exactly certain what the output was supposed to be. And one of the other things we have to look at here is that we may decide that some of these things are no longer needed, or we don't know why they're needed, or we have no plans to ever work on them, in which case, wouldn't necessarily need to create anything for them. But I think actually everything down to contributor growth framework got done.
Now, the README, I assume, is the README of this repo that's done and we updated recently. Governance
Well, no,
markdown.
I think that the README is the README template, I believe, which got done.
That's right. That's done as
Yeah.
well. The governance markdown that exists.
Yeah. Yep. With the contributor ladder, like I want to add a new item for contributor ladder, which is to have some simplified contributor ladder examples. Simply because the existing contributor ladder template is kind of a assembly kit, and project maintainers are confused by it. And if we could provide a couple of examples, I think it would really help them. But that would be a new issue that we'd put on the project board.
All right. Would you create that issue? Because it seems like you have a clear idea what it should look like.
Yeah.
All right, then I'm going to tick it off. Thanks, Josh. Is somebody taking notes in the agenda?
I can do that.
Jay, can I ask? Oh, Ali. Thanks, Ali. I appreciate it. So
Okay,
we
but
can-
yeah, what's the action item here?
So the action item for this one is Josh is going to make an issue for contributor ladder to clarify the work for contributor ladder that is needed.
What about the others? Like for each one, you mean?
No, we're going to go through that. So that's the first one, and so we'll go step down through the
Okay.
list.
Okay.
Thanks, Ali. Onboarding framework. I'm not sure what's meant by that.
I don't know either. And Caroline's not here either, so Pretzer's one of our coworkers, so I don't
Okay. It
Yeah.
will.
So that would be
bubble up in
someone
some
needs to
other
ask
way.
Caroline what that is.
I think you mean Catherine.
Catherine, sorry. Ugh.
Okay.
Or just ask Pretzer directly.
Okay, so we can stick that as an AI. I can go to Catherine about that. So if we can put an AI for onboarding framework, what that might be.
Mhm.
Reviewing Markdown, does that relate to the governance review?
No. Reviewing.md is for how to instructions on how to do a template for instructions on how stuff gets reviewed in a project. And that got written, so it's done.
Yeah, we also have the CRM overview and runbook. That's done too.
Mhm.
Issue templates, do we have issue templates? That's probably the wrong question to ask. I should know that. Let's have a look quickly. New issue. No, we don't have issue templates yet. I assume these issue templates would be templates for other people, or would be templates for us in the repo for issues. Templates. Kind of.
Well, this whole issue is stuff we're supplying for projects. So presumably it's templates for projects, but again, I wasn't present at the discussion that put these things in the list, so I'm not quite certain exactly, I can guess, but I don't actually know exactly what was expected there and what sort of intermediate work might have been done, if any.
I think that's a good assessment, Josh, because we, as a tag, wouldn't need a bug issue. So this would be templates, issue template, if that double template makes sense. So Ali, you can put this down as I will make an issue for issue template. Because that would be a nice help wanted, because there's a lot of examples out there that somebody can just put together. Want to work on that. About question, documentation, request, proposal, announcement, that's easy. Chat in Slack for a mailing list. I'm not sure what this should mean. Does anybody know an example of an issue that does this, that takes you to a forum?
You can just link
I've not come
the
across.
Slack or whatever forum mailing list you have in a issue template, but I don't know if there's any other integration that GitHub provides.
Okay, I'll make an issue and then we can have a look at this. It's actually
Yeah.
good work to do. Pull request templates. I think that would be we can do that as one issue, because it's basically GitHub template for pull request and issues.
Okay. I've created the contributor ladder example issue, so across that.
Thanks, Josh. And you can just put the label on for contribute strategy and put it in the backlog.
Yeah. Yep.
Thanks. It should auto assign to the project board. And release process. Sorry, you mentioned about the release process.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, once again, not present at the meetings. I'm guessing why these things were added. And the obvious one to me is that one thing that the TOC asks projects for is documentation on the release process, because for one of the levels, you're supposed to demonstrate that you have that you're doing reasonably frequent and regular releases, because obviously a project that is not releasing anything shouldn't advance. And we don't have, the CNCF doesn't have any examples of that for projects. So I think that's still something that would be a good issue to create, because some projects do have a release process document that we could use as examples. Yeah.
So Josh, I was just chattering about this with somebody else the other day. Is this trackable by the change log? So like in Kubernetes, you can see that there are change logs in the repo, how do you metric the process, the release process? Is this just documentation you're talking about here, or is this actually figuring out whether or not they have change logs?
No. It would be, from us, it would be potentially two different things. One would be a template for a release.md file that projects could use. As in a template for a document that the projects create that says this is how we do releases. And that would be essentially a governance document, so it could be assigned to governance. The second thing would be an advisory document for projects on how to manage their releases, which would be a great thing for somebody to write. And I would not even want to try to write myself. So the and both of those things would be helpful for projects. I mean, like, for example, one of the things that would go in that advisory document is, hey, here's how you write good changelog entries. Because I can tell you one big complaint I hear from end users, one thing that caused us to overhaul how we handle the Kubernetes changelog was a big complaint we heard from end users is, hey, there's 200 items in this changelog and I can't tell which ones apply to me.
At least the changelog existed. So
yeah.
That's like step number one. Can you find a changelog in a project? So
yeah. I mean, for projects that are in GitHub, that's actually relatively easy because all of the commits get pulled in. It's just that often those commits are extremely cryptic and not comprehensible to anybody who's not a maintainer. Sometimes not even comprehensible to a maintainer if they didn't work on the specific PR. For the Kubernetes release team literally has a position just to rewrite those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We'll try and if we can get that to granularly go out to all the other CNCF projects, that would be very nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I see here actually two issues. One is to create a release.md template for projects to use. And the other thing is to create an advisory document on managing your release process. Which would be two separate but related things. So, okay, as soon as I get done putting this issue in the backlog, I'll create those two issues.
Thanks, Josh. That's really helpful. So I'm going to check that off as done, and this is done. We're going to make issues, so it's not done as completed, but I'm ticking them off so I can close the issue. And I'll comment below once we are through this. And close the issue. Okay, advisories, labeling issues, we've dealt with that, and then a series perhaps on mentoring, fostering people through contributor ladder. Pull request lifecycle, that would also be a document, and defining community values beyond code conduct, how foster values. From the group, do we think there is a need to open issues for these? Which one should and shouldn't? Pull request lifecycle might actually be a good document, especially for newbies. I went through one of the deaf and hard of hearing working group people through the steps of how an issue relates to a pull request, how to make the changes, how to make the pull request, and actually what the result is. And because she never did it, she done some GitHub, but she never done a pull request that got merged. It was a aha moment. So maybe some good documentation about why and how a pull request might be a good issue. I don't know if anybody else agree.
I agree. This would be very nice, actually. For example, I am also working with some UX designers. They don't know too much about GitHub in general. So, but that is maybe a bit different than what we are trying to do here. So pull request lifecycle. I have like I would like it, but we need to really think about limiting the scope for this working group because we're not creating advisories for non-tech people, I think. If that's the target, yeah, I mean, if that is the target, I'm also okay with that, but we just need to think about that.
It is a good point. It comes down to training then. We might just expand on that inside the how to get started in open source. There's already a bit about pull requests and how they work. So maybe that's covered. I can just review and see if I want to add anything, any more detail there. Okay, so I will go review that document. You can put it set the AI for me for a review pull request lifecycle inside the how to get started on open source. I think that should be sufficient.
I like the idea on the series around mentoring and fostering people through the contributor as well. But I might catch up with Nate if he has any specific ideas around that. And I made a note around I don't know what everyone's thoughts are around defining the community values. I personally like that beyond the code of conduct.
So I think we actually have that. We have that documented, I think, in the charter documentation about how to create your community values. I think we did it as part of some of the governance stuff.
Okay, cool.
So that's done.
Awesome.
Ali, do you want us, Jay, do you want us to make a issue for a series on mentoring and fostering people through the contributor ladder?
Yeah, please.
All right. Let's stick that. Thanks, Ali. You are being a champion there in the agenda, I see. All right. I think we've got on the agenda a list of, and I'll also review the recording again later to just sort my mind and be sure we cover all these. Then I'm going to close it later and just comment that we did that. That is not what we're looking for. I'm a little lost here. Let me go back to the original. So that is the issue that we looked at now. Let's go to this one here. Oh, this is actually closed. So I assume it was reviewed and closed. So I put this out to issues. Okay. This is actually done. So my mistake. Okay, project maturity grid. We'll put that on the agenda.
I did.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah. So one of the things that's going on concurrently here, which is technically under tag contributor strategy, is this project moving levels working group, where we're basically trying to rationalize all of the requirements for getting from sandbox to incubating to graduated, because a lot of those requirements have been rather vague and varied from one TOC to another. And it's time to make it more of a system. So as part of that, I pulled out the things that we look for as a tag when we give feedback on projects that are looking to mature. Because the kind of person I am, I decided that would be easiest to visualize as a grid. The so you know, both, you know, and with some improvement of that grid, the grid will be useful both for the people doing the reviews, like us in the TOC, and it'll also be useful for the projects themselves, right? Because one of the concepts that we embrace is that projects should get gradually more sophisticated as they move up to graduated. And I think this kind of shows that better than necessarily other versions of the requirements that we've had. However, because I've been working on the governance reviews, most of the requirements in here are governance requirements. And it's pretty light on contributor recruitment and growth requirements. So I wanted to have this group look over this grid, not necessarily in this meeting, but like at some point real soon, and see if there's other things that we ought to add that are contributor growth related.
So there's, I put in the agenda, the link to the TOC issue. That is the sandbox review, if you go back to that, that I think is related to this. But I was just wondering if you could click on that and you can share that for a second. That is another set of, another list.
Oh, sorry.
There you go. The annual reviews list. And that's the more metricable things that you can, some of them are measurable, some of them are not so measurable.
Yeah.
But so that is that work you're doing in this new working group related to this TOC request?
Yeah, well, right now we're focused on the qualitative requirements. So the things that we want to see. And then the next step after that is, okay, how do we assign metrics to these things? Which in some cases will be, we need a new metric for that.
So are the people who submitted this TOC also helping you with this list that you've just created, or is this in addition or separate work process? How are these two things related? Are they at all?
They're not really. The issue that you link to is more about the annual reports, because the sandbox projects have to produce an annual report, and right now it's a lot of work for them. And so Krishna wanted to find ways that more of that annual report could be automatically generated in the same way that we've done for the SIG reports in Kubernetes. So I would say they're related, right? Because ultimately we want to get to a stage where when a sandbox project is applying for incubating, we first look at their last annual report, which already has most of the information we need. So they're related in terms of process. They're not related in terms of it's convergent work rather than work that's being done together.
I think that the data that's already the first section there and that is pretty easy to collect. The data box, the adoption ones, and the open working practices and goals. If you can add them into your spreadsheet in some way, so that we're also we're thinking about that. It's a lot of burden to put on projects, is what I'm been thinking lately. All of these questions, people are mostly maintainers, and a few actually have community managers who can get all this. But if there were like the release process, one of the questions was in here was about release processes. Are they doing good releases and stuff like that? And it's not standard across projects, so there's no way to really standardly. It's a very qualitative, subjective question,
right?
In some ways. So trying to figure out. So if we could merge these two work processes, that would be very nice, so that we don't.
Yeah, but I think you're talking more about the release, the release template, release documentation thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think these adoption things too are pretty burdensome for community managers, or relative to how good they are at doing outreach to their potential adopters. And if someone doesn't have a strong community manager, they're not going to have people volunteering to publicly be references in their adopters. So it's like there's this chicken and egg thing here too. Can you measure it, or what should be the measurable thing? And I like your list a lot, but it's mostly governance stuff. So it would be nice to have these things
Yeah.
included in there.
Yeah, I mean, most of the things in the annual report should be related to things that are required to advance to the incubating level.
Yeah.
And it would be good to, for tracking this, make sure that they actually all are related, right? So that we're not asking projects for additional information that's basically not important. And it would also be good to check through here and see whether or not there's stuff that is not part of that incubating grid. Although, to be fair, like when I did the grid, it was focused entirely on things that tag CS checks, as opposed to, because there's also tag security, which has their own list of requirements, and some other things. Likely the moving levels work group will end up eventually with a grid that covers everything, though.
Yeah, I think that's what
the,
I'm getting at.
yeah.
That if we could, all
Yeah.
these different work efforts, whether it's security or governance or whatever, we can just have one grid that a community manager can look at and figure out how to do. Because then we also are seeing the burden that we're putting on the projects for reporting all of this, and it's getting pretty comprehensive here. You're asking a lot, and so automating it would be a good thing, and that's one thing I've been working on with a few of the sandbox projects, is how to automate this for them so that they can watch it ongoing, not just when the report is asked for. But yeah, I think the two workflows basically is the point I'm making, are related, and maybe all the resources should be working together, these Krishna and the other folks on this. And I'm sure there's, in the security one, there's more people too. We could bring everybody together. That would be nice.
Okay. So related to that, if people have suggestions for contributor growth items that ought to be in that grid, since there's only a few there currently, in having basically sort of two levels of a contributing.md file, having the contributor ladder, the documenting your communications channels. That's pretty much everything that I have in there for contributor growth. So they could probably, demonstrate contributor mobility, which kind of kicks in at the governance at the graduating level. Whether or not there should be other things for contributor growth.
Yeah, this matrix is really a great idea. And once we got the document finalized through the moving levels working group, combing through that and see what's in there, also added in here, because it is hard to figure it out through the current documentation.
Yeah, but I mean, part of it is, since I sit in both things, on behalf of the moving levels working group, I'm asking this group of people to say, hey, should there be other contributor growth items in here before they finalize it? Because once they finalize it, it's not going to change, for like 2 years. So
I'm just sorry, I keep hammering on this. So the adoption ones that are in that TOC issue, is it appropriate to add them to this list? The adoption ones, and maybe the what's the open work practices ones? Or do we add tabs?
Definitely, definitely the open. You know what? Add it in.
All of them.
And if we decide it needs to go somewhere else, then we'll move it somewhere else later.
Okay.
Because
personally, I would like to have them all in one place.
Yeah.
And that way we can overwhelm community managers everywhere quickly. And and figure out how to automate some of this. The adoption ones are a little worrisome because they are very subjective, and to me at least. But I think we should be discussing them.
Now, the adoption is very open to interpretation, also from the moving levels working group, because projects are very different, and specifically spec projects, there's very little movement going on there, so you can't say you must have XYZ for every project. So it's not easy. So yeah,
we're trying to get that a little bit more codified, but certain judgments have to be subjective. Like, for example, who's an end user? Because an organization can be a vendor in one project and an end user in another project. And that's been a struggle since, as long as the CNCF has been around. So you can say, and that's actually why I think they're changing the requirement anyway to just be a number of organizations, because the who's an end user has been so subjective. But even some other things like what counts as adoption, because
I think that's semantically the question there. I mean, the measurable thing would be new organizations participating in the project. Would be easier to measure. But as you pointed out, different projects have different, needs. So like etcd doesn't have a ton of net new external petition, but that's also a red flag. It should have been a long time ago. But I think trying to put measures to those things, what is an adopter, is different, can be different for different projects. But I think we could say something like net new external participants in the project, whether it's issues or comments or pull requests.
Well, actually, I mean, and this is one of those things, right? When the grid gets sort of completed, like, one of the next steps is, okay, how do we assign metrics to each item in this grid? Whether the metric is a qualitative one, like document X should exist, or the metric is a quantitative one, like, hey, number of pull requests in the last 6 months from how many organizations.
So this new working group that you've started about project levels, should we invite maybe, or whomever started it, that has been started, should we invite the people who did that TOC issue to come to that, to discuss this, so that we're not doing duplication of effort?
To come to what?
To your meetings for this project levels group? Are they, is Krishna basically?
I don't actually run that team, and because the moving levels is a little political, I don't control the membership list of the committee. So that would need to get forwarded to Emily.
Is that, sorry, I didn't hear that. Is that a TOC working group, or is that a contributor strategy working group? I missed the initiation.
They put the working group under contributor strategy, but it's managed by the TOC directly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's more of a temporary project group. It's not an official working group, it's a temporary project just to work through the documentation. So it's not a long-term project.
Okay.
Or it's not going to be a fixed working group announced. It's just a group of people working together to get this sorted for the TOC.
Okay. Right, but the meetings are open.
Yes, and recorded.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about the recordings. Can you share the recordings, or if you have?
Yes,
I don't know.
I can look for that. What I'll do is I'll drop the agenda in. Give me a moment, I'll find it. There we are, and if I can find my chat, I'll drop it in chat. Anyway, that is the agenda document for the moving labels. And you'll find for every week there is a recording. I think. Yes, there's links for record. I see week 3 I have a link, the others is not there yet. We can maybe just check with Amy. I think Amy is in charge of the recordings. Thank you, Josh, for starting this list. So Diane, you're going to add all the adoption points for us, as well as the working practice.
Yep.
And then if everybody else want to chime in, and you can even review the moving levels recordings and add whatever else you think should go in here. Josh, and your thought is, as we're busy solidifying the moving levels document, we're probably going to run this matrix past them as well and say this is a matrix of the things that you have been discussing.
Yeah, I've already shared the matrix with that committee. That's where it came out of. Was out of one of those meetings, because they're doing it in sort of an outline format, which I honestly couldn't really follow. And so I was like, okay, I need to break this out into a format that's a little bit more comprehensible to me, because the grid, as you see, actually includes some changes from what's presently required, because we've been talking about changing some of the requirements. Yeah, so that this grid is already shared with that committee.
Yeah, it might not be appropriate then for me to just add in those items for adoption. It looks like it's already been shared into the TOC's next meeting outline as well. So without.
No, I'd say go ahead and add those in, because those are things we're asking for in the annual report. So
Yeah.
If we're going to stop requiring them, then we need to actually make a specific decision to stop, right?
Yeah.
The
Okay. Cool. I will. I'll do that
Yep.
right after this meeting, and then
Yeah.
ping me if I've
Cool.
done something incorrectly.
I'll just edit it.
Yeah,
you will.
which is a very good point from your Diane, that let's add it all, and you don't want people to jump through hoops that's not required.
Yeah. My biggest concern is that this is very burdensome for the community managers, and especially small projects that don't have a lot of community management. And it ends up being on the maintainers of the project. And not that they shouldn't have all of this stuff. I'm not saying that, but it's just, this is a very daunting list if you're a small project.
It is. All right, any other comments on that? Yeah, the input. All right, then I will roll over to the last point on the agenda, is the project board. So we've road mapped ourselves, and we made project boards with project views for all the different groups. So what we still have is items in the new column, but I just want to make sure that we actually still want these. So what I'm going to do, let me close all these other tabs and open these issues here. Just see if they, because all the ones that's in backlog has been discussed before and agreed it's still valid, and we moved it over to backlog. So I just want to clear the new section, and as new things come in, we will directly review them weekly and just shift them over to backlog as soon as we agree that they actually belong to this group and needs work. So this is a fairly old issue. from Chris Anichek about the Orbit team. This is actually exactly 3 years old last month. Should we still keep this open? There was no movement here for 3 years.
Piloting orbit? I don't even know what that is.
It's kind of an analytics tool to help you understand your community. It uses kind of a different model than what we have with DevStats and some of the chaos tools. I'm a fan of closing it. I feel like this is ancient, and if somebody really wants to pilot it,
Yeah.
we can open a new issue.
Yeah, and this was, they reached out to SIG Contribex in Kubernetes, and somehow nothing ever came of it. I think they were supposed to provide access to the Kubernetes folks that never really that fell through, and yeah, Orbit might not even exist anymore. So yeah, close it.
It still exists. There's another one, Common Room, as well, that are
Yeah.
single project focused. And they're not bad tools at all. But I don't know if we're going to get access to them.
And I feel like we have a lot of other stuff to do that's a lot more important than piloting something like this.
Yep.
It's only 3 years old. Okay, thank you. Let's not keep that alive then. Then I have this one, curated GitHub, issue templates for new projects. This is actually
That's actually what we just talked about. I think that's
That's exactly-
going to create
exactly
an
what
issue
we
for.
Reuse the
exactly.
issue.
Oh,
Recycle.
okay, it wasn't linked from the master one. Great.
Beautiful. I will take it on me to add the things that we discussed, put the list in here and make it nice and new again and stick it in the backlog. Leave that to me. And then we have one more. Which is 3 weeks ago. I didn't see that's come in.
I've got a question for you, Rian, some technical project board questions.
Mhm.
Is there a way that we can exclude project level review cards from this project board?
Project level review cards.
Yeah, because we've got issues labeled project level review that are for that project's moving levels working group, which has
yes.
its own project board, but they're also getting included on our project board.
Yes, I could actually. Yes, I could put a filter in that will remove that.
Okay. Just because I'm trying to clear out everything in new here, and it doesn't help to have stuff that actually isn't ours.
Oh, are you in the talking about the main view? Oh, they are. It's actually showing up in the main view only, I think. If you're talking about the overall view.
Yeah.
They show up here, but they do. If you go to contributor growth, they won't show up here because you need the contributor growth label. So in the overview, which is not related to any specific project, they will show up. But all the others we filter according to the labels that's for that specific group. So if that's okay, I'll leave it like that. Otherwise, I can also, if there's consensus, I can filter it out of, because the overview is all for issues that's open in this repo.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. Let's take this into Slack.
Okay.
There's a question of it's really just a problem for me because I'm trying to get stuff out of the new column. And for that, I need to look at the view of everything. And if I have stuff that I can't touch in that new column, then it's it means that I can never actually clear it out. So, but we don't need to take more time in the meeting about it. I am busy. We've got some things in the new column in the general view that are not tagged contributor growth and should be. So I'm currently tagging those. Like I just added one about providing
Nice, thank you.
examples, providing ideas for recognizing first-time contributors, which was a request from a project and sounds like a really good idea for a document from us.
Okay. Just to finish on this project sorting quiz, it is brand new. It's 3 weeks old. I don't see a reason why it shouldn't be here. So what I'm going to do is just move that into the backlog as a valid issue. Provide examples of how to. Thank you, Josh, for moving that and labeling it. Also very old, but I think it is still a good issue to address. So I'll put that in backlog if there's no objections. Issue template I'm going to look at.
Yeah,
is still
this is
there.
something that needs to be done. Our contributing MD for the tag looks nothing like the template we've created for the projects to use, and ours is really old and crusty, and we need to overhaul it. And we've had a couple of volunteers to work on it, but they don't know enough about the tag to actually do it. It has to be somebody who's involved in the tag, I think, to update the contributing file. So the way we're
Really?
using help wanted tags, which is really more like good first issue, I think we need to remove the help wanted tag, because I don't think this is something that we want someone who's not familiar with the tag to do.
Oh, I've been making a pretty clear distinction between help wanted and good first issue. I've been using maybe it's different how people have been using it. I've been using help wanted to indicate nobody is currently working on this.
That's what I was using it for too, but it appears that new people are being pointed to those issues to work on them.
The reason for that would be is Cloudtributor. Cloudtributor actually filters on help wanted. So if you have a help wanted label, it goes into Cloudtributor, which is kind of then the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
well,
this is,
or that suggests that maybe we should actually replace help wanted with unassigned or something like that. You know, to acknowledge issues where we think it's something the tag ought to do, but nobody's currently working on it. I don't know, how many things do we have where somebody who joined the tag and spent at least a couple of weeks learning about the tag couldn't work on? Because that might be kind of a special case that we just need to document in the issue. Because like I'm looking at one right now, help existing projects learn about what the CNCF can help with. That's something that somebody who's involved with the CNCF and is willing to send a bunch of questions to the projects team could just do.
we do. So we got a new column sorted now. So basically everything now in the backlog. So if we do get people around that want to get a little mentoring, and I think definitely out of hearing working group, there is people that's keen to get involved in open source. It might be a good place to reach out and say, and I think I've mentioned there already that Tag Contributor Sachi got a lot of non-code work that would be great if people want to jump in and help. And even Noah's non-code people would be great to get some of them to attend the meetings and get involved. Thank you for helping to clear the new column. I'll sort out that last item there. Is there any other thoughts at the moment about the issues? I don't think we need to triage any of the issues or assign issues now. All right. I'll call that good then. Any other topics? Anything else that we need? We've got 3 more minutes left. All right, that means everybody gets 2 minutes back. Thank you very much for attending. Thanks for all your input and help. And have a beautiful day.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Thanks, Leon.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Cheers, everyone.
everybody. Take care.